2005, what's he been doing? That's my question. I'm not a high school educated guy, and I listen for key words, and that one really got me.
And you know, what it comes down to is this: I'm not going to be a clone of the Adams administration. I'm going to be my own person, and I'm going to do it the way I see fit. And one of the two areas I'm going to be in is truthful to the public, and we're going to have transparency. So you'll know what we're doing. Not hiding it. We're not having funds that we don't know where the money's coming from or where the money's going to. I want the public to know what's going on because we represent y'all. I mean, we're an extension of the community. We're an extension of law enforcement. We're there to help the victims. And to do that, they should be informed of what's going on. I mean, y'all should know what's going on. And no matter who's elected, y'all as taxpayers have a right to know where your money's going. And I think y'all should call for it. Whether it's me or Mr. Wagner, you should ask, are you going to continue these same practices if Mr. Wagner's elected? I would ask him the same things. Are you going to continue pouring money into things that we don't need? Cars, computer systems, money market funds. Are you going to stand up for that? Are you going to make people show up on time? Are you going to make them work and do their job? You know, those are areas that need to be looked at. Are you going to call for an audit? Maybe Mr. Byrd called for it. I've called for one even before this started. And that is what this office needs to get back to, is serving the people. And y'all need to know what's going on. I mean, you have a right. When you pay your taxes every year, a portion of it's going to the solicitor's office. So it's your right to know. Yes, ma'am.
Couple of statements, then also a question. How, if you were a solicitor, how would you go about writing a wrongful conviction? I go to a lot of court cases just because I go. That's something probably the majority of people here don't know that I do. And I have evidence that I know of that 2 cases. There's a person who is criminalized that is not guilty. And the solicitor's office helped to frame the evidence that convicted those 2 people, separate cases. And I intend to right that wrong. And I'm looking for somebody in the solicitor's office that'll stand up and be a man and do it. I'm going to name a couple of cases that come to mind about that. You remember the book To Kill a Mockingbird? Remember what happened in that? Do you remember, what's the man with the one arm show that was the man with the one arm supposedly killed the wife? Y'all help me here.
Fugitive.
The Fugitive?
Yeah.
Okay, that's another case. There was a case in Greenville back in 1947 with a man named Willie Earl, happened to be a black man, who got crucified for a case, and he was not guilty. The police let him loose, and the public took him and hung him. There are cases like that. Now, I want to see the guilty put in jail. I want to see that happen. But I also don't like it at all when you find out that agencies that are supposed to be supporting and doing our justice, whether it be the sheriff, the solicitor, any other agent that we pay for, when they manipulate and put somebody in jail that's innocent, then I'm on a warpath, and I'm going to tell you I'm on a warpath.
Well, let me answer the question here. First of all, one of the gravest mistakes not a mistake, but things that I, as a prosecutor, when I was prosecuting, you worry about, is you want to make sure you have the right person. And if you're not comfortable, if you can't sleep with yourself at night, you don't have the right person. Because it's ultimately the responsibility of the solicitor to seek justice. And justice doesn't mean always putting someone in jail. Justice means looking at the facts and determine if you have the right person or not. Because we never want to put an innocent person in jail. I'd rather 100 guilty people go free than to put one innocent person in jail. Because that's not what we're based on. And those are the things that always, as a prosecutor, you worry about. And I give you a case in point. Specifically, that happened to me when I was prosecuting down in the Low Country in Carleton County. I was trying a drug case where 4 people were charged in a vehicle with dope. And we were going to trial, and I had finished my case, and we broke for lunch. But I didn't like the way my witness handled himself on the stand, and I didn't have a good feeling. So during that lunch break, I went ahead and talked again with that witness. And this trial had been going on for a couple of days. And after getting done with that witness, without him even admitting anything, but just by his body language, and talking to him, how he handled himself, I didn't feel comfortable prosecuting the guy that was on trial. Called for the public defender. We went and met the judge in chambers, and I told the judge what was going on, and I dismissed my case in the middle of that trial. And the reason why is I wasn't going to put a guy that even remotely had a chance of being innocent. In this case, I didn't feel like my witnesses, after all the times I had met with them and talked to them, had been telling me the truth, and then all of a sudden the way they started acting, the way the main one started talking, made me feel uncomfortable. So I dismissed that case. And the reason is, I don't want an innocent person to go to jail, just like y'all don't. And if innocent people have gone to jail, just like you're talking about in those cases, you're talking about stuff like the Innocent Projects, where people go out and look at and try to right a wrong that the government has done. I'm all for that. Of course, you got to prove the case. You know that everything's based on evidence and facts that can be proven. But if a person has been put in jail wrongfully, we want to correct that. And if the people who put that person in jail did it knowing, intentionally did it, then they should be prosecuted. Because at that point in time, they have crossed that line from where they're doing the service for the community, when they're doing their deed, the servant, prosecuting, and they've changed over. And no, ma'am, we will prosecute those people who do that, because that's uncalled for.
Anyone else?
Well, the last was my statement that I was going to make, that I have heard, this is the way it's being run in the solicitor's office now, that when Chrissy, and I voted for Chrissy the first 2 times, I don't know whether it's her health that has failed her and failed us, or what the situation is or was, but according to what I hear is most of the solicitors in the office she is picked from Greenville. They don't have any investment in Anderson County because they don't live here. They don't vote here. They come in around 10:30 in the morning, lollygalling in and get settled or whatever. They stay for an hour and a half, then they go for an hour and a half lunch, then they come back and do a little bit more, and then they're gone. And that's not the kind of people that I want in my county looking after the justice that's here. The other part is I hear that the solicitor's office has a slush fund, that the solicitors get paid a certain amount, whether it be $50,000 or whatever, and then a whole hunk of other money is put in a slush fund, where when they want to send them down to Hilton Head and they have their champagne and caviar, they get paid to go, down there and stay in the whatever and do it. And I tell you, I bet you that just about every person in here that I know, which is most every single person, that person has been in business. And they have, on their own time, bled, sweat, cried, saved, scrimped to do what they do in order to make a living. And I'll be golly if I want the solicitor's office to be living high and mighty instead of doing what they're supposed to do.
I agree with you.
Do you have a grand jury in Anderson County?
Yes, sir.
Do you use it all the time?
Yes, sir.
Why wouldn't Adams present this case and the other one to the grand jury to see if there's
Go forward. I can't answer that. I wasn't involved.
That's the purpose of the grand jury.
Yes, sir. It is the purpose of the grand jury to hear evidence and decide if it's enough evidence to send it forth to court.
Right.
And the honest answer I can give you is, I don't know. That Ms. Adams, Mr. Wagner, and whoever else up in the Oconee office was working on those cases, that was their call. I know as much as y'all do on those cases on the facts, no insider information. I can't answer that.
Because we're okay, we had 4 grand jury system. 4 week, every week. And each grand jury heard a different crime. One was homicide, one was fraud, one was rape. And that's all they would hear. They come out with a true bill, go lock,
Right.
go lock.
And I'm, straight answer is I can't tell you. I have no idea why not. I don't know exactly what they have, or the decision-making process behind their decisions when they made those cases. I don't know why they didn't do that. I know that's something Mr. Burr was bringing up during some of the forums that we've had, is that he thought it should have gone to a grand jury. But he was working in Coney County. He probably knew a little bit more than I did. So.
Okay, yeah, Steve?
Do you always consult with the officer who made the case before you now process the case?
Talking about me personally or somebody else?
You personally?
Yes, sir. I talk to the officers when we do that. They typically, a lot of times, they'll send a form in saying they don't care what happens, and if it's dismissed, they don't want to be notified. But a lot of times when they say, we want to be notified, yes, sir, they're going to be talked to. Because the way I look at it is this, it's their sweat equity. They're the ones at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning that are out there, not me. And when they make a case, they may have strong feelings about it. There may be some issues legal-wise that we have to work on. There may be reasons that that case can't go forward. But if you non-cross a case without talking to them, you lose the opportunity to train that officer, to help that officer, to make that officer better. Because there may be legal stuff that he did that legally we can't